Oh, hello, hello. Yes, I am live. Lovely. Oh, let's check those notifications as always. Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. Can you believe it? Yes, the week has flown by as always. And again, it's especially busy when we're in our sewing rooms, trying to get everything done. There we go. I should be live.
Anniversary edition.
Oh,
Yes, the week has flown
there we
by,
go.
as always.
Yes. Lovely. Hello, everyone. It is great to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Michael Smith, the National Education Manager of Janome, Canada, and I'm back from my palatial estate here to share more of the Janome love in the Janome Sewing Machines Facebook page. This will be posted to the Continental Club group after I'm done this live. We're also streaming live to the Janome Canada Facebook page, Janome America YouTube channel, and Janome Canada's YouTube channel, the Janome HQ, standing for Janome Headquarters, Janome HQ YouTube. So whatever platform you were on, hopefully you're able to view this presentation and get a little bit more tips and tricks and sewing and machines. And specifically today, I'm going to share with you some little tips about our tapering function that is built into a number of Janome machines, not just the CM17, what I'm demonstrating here today, but a number of machines, not only just Continental machines, a number of machines. So it's really, really fun. Oh, and my sister Deb is here. Hello, hello. So thank you everyone so much for joining me today. Let me flip around as always, because of course I've got lots to share with you. So hopefully you're all having a wonderful first week of January, first week of the new year. And yes, today I'm back on my fabulous CM17. But again, there are a number of machines that have this tapering function. Oh, Marty is here. Hello. It is good to see you too. Oh, from snowy southern Indiana. It's snowy here today. It's been snowing for days. So again, regardless of the weather, let's just stay inside to sew. So this tapering function, so there's many different applications for it, but what I'm going to start off with is what I think initially when trust Janome to come up with some really cool things to help us out. When we're doing applique, for example, we're doing applique, stitching one fabric onto another. And a lot of the times we could use a lot of fancy applique stitches. A lot of times we just use a regular zigzag. And in this case, I'm using a tighter zigzag like satin stitch. And you know when you're doing applique, as I'm just resuming what I'm doing here, as we're doing our little tight zigzag stitch here, and we're getting into the corner, we want to make sure we stop. When we do our applique, we're traditionally stopping with the needle in the right-hand position, as I am. Maybe one more stitch right into the corner. And when I go to pivot my fabric here, boom, then you see I already have a previous line of stitching here to the left. And now when I do my applique, oh, I could have moved over just a little bit more, but there, that's okay. It's always hard when you have a camera in front of you. But again, as I'm doing my stitching here, because I've already stitched over my previous line of stitching, I'll just cut this off so you can see, we get a buildup of stitches in the corner, particularly when we're doing our applique. Do you see that buildup of stitches? We can see it a little bit more here on our back side there. You see the buildup of stitches. So the cool thing about tapering, it'll be a little, maybe harder for you to see here. Do you see tapering? Boom. It's like I've tapered off. I've cut off that corner of extra stitches. Look on the stabilizer side, you can really see, boom, that goes off in like a 45 degree. So we don't have that extra buildup of stitches. And why? Because this little satin stitch has tapered down, in this case to a 45 degree angle. And then when I pivoted my corner, I went off again at that 45 degree angle and then did my satin stitching. Oh, from New Zealand. Hello, hello. So the cool thing is, again, we don't have that buildup of stitches. So tapering is very, very fun. And oh, look what we can do. Now, you'll recognize a lot of these decorative stitches are built into a number of machine. Again, like these beautiful satin stitches here, but do you see on the tip here, it is tapered. In this case, it's a 60-degree angle. Or this satin stitch, this shell stitch, is tapered off to a 60-degree. Or again, this I think was also 60 center. This was 60 to the left, and then we could do a right. So you'll see how they taper, they go down, these little satin stitches, they go down to nothing. So great if we're going to decorate our fabric, or specifically if we're going to, there's some more here as we can join up. Isn't that very fun? Now, specifically too, again, for applique, or here on the back side, oh yes, on the back side, again, more angles, more stitches. How fun. Change the angle up. In this case, this is one, it's going off this way, and this is tapering going off. I think these were to the 45 going to the right, and this is 45 going off to the left. You see so many different stitches. It is so fun. But when this is a cool thing to do, oh, look at this. Imagine this is on a napkin, for example. We don't have to do necessarily a whole big project. We're just going to even purchase napkins. We can just embellish them with, again, the decorative stitches built into our machine. And with this tapering function, you see very tiny right into that corner, no buildup of stitches. Or how about here, we are doing this beautiful frame. So this could be your quilt label, for example, and all of your fonts could be here, your quilt label. And then again, I made this frame. Look at how beautiful those satin stitches are right into the corner. This was angled on a 45-degree angle. And then I just pivoted my fabric and boom, there it is, this perfect, beautiful box. So again, this could have maybe a photo in it, or you could have a photo stitch out with Artistic Digitizer software, and then you create a border of it with your tapering stitches. So there's many good uses. Again, so many beautiful stitches, many good uses for tapering. And again, there we go, right down into the corner. Look at those tiny little stitches. So again, imagine this on the corner of a tablecloth, or on, again, napkins, or even here as this older sample, I even use tapering stitches to stitch my business card down to the sample. So there's lots of fun things we could do with the tapering stitches built into a number of machines. How about something as simple as this? You're testing out your stitches, for example, and your different angles, your different degrees of tapering. Again, this one would be more like a 45, or there's a 60 degree, a 90 degree, 120 degree. They're different degrees of tapering, different stitches. So you stitch a sampler here on some black and white fabric, and of course red with the contrast stitching, red for Janome. And then this, you're embellishing your fabric, and then this, what I'm going to do with this is going to be a little zipper pouch. There's going to be a zipper here. I just sew up the ends. Boom, there's my zipper pouch. But it's got all this beautiful tapering stitches. This could be like your little stitch sampler. So how fun is that? Or again, when would we use tapering? Well, this is a great application for those old dress shirts. And after a while, you know, you got that ring around the collar, you just can't get rid of it. Or again, yeah, maybe you get, you know, those sweat stains, those perspiration stains under the arm, and you just can't get rid of them. Well, don't throw this away. Again, nothing gets thrown away in your sewing room. You use this to do your tapering practice. So look at that. How about you embellish the collar of, again, this is a purchased dress shirt. And as a practice sample, use that old dress shirt that you're just going to toss away anyway to do your practicing. Once you get it all down, you make yourself these little cheat sheets, and you write all of this little information, like these are my stitches, and I'm going to go over how to do this tapering in just a minute. So here's my stitch. Well, this is 1 repetition, 2 repetition, 3 repetition, 4 repetition, or 7 repetitions in this case. So then I practice, oh, and then I can measure how long, with my handy little Janome ruler here, how long is 7 repetitions of this stitch, for example? How long is 3 repetitions of this stitch? How long are 2 repetitions of this stitch? So you do your little practice sample here and you write down, this was with the 60-degree tapering. These samples up here, we're using the 45-degree off to the left. It's pointing off to the left. And then again, I was doing all my little, again, practicing. This is 2 times this beautiful satin stitch. I love it. This is 2 times the repetition with a 60-degree angle. And then when I got into this corner, I just pivoted my fabric like that, left the needle in the fabric and stitched down here. So again, this could be on, again, a tablecloth, napkins, or again, in this case, a collar of a dress shirt, for example. Or how about in between on the button placket? You do, again, this is 1 repetition, and it was, I think, again, a 60-degree tapering and a 60-degree tapering, and I centered it in between the buttonholes on the button placket. So you can have a lot of fun. Or how about in between, there's the buttonhole. There's the buttonhole. So I did this tapering with this scallop stitch down one side, and then I mirrored image it, use the other functions in our machines to flip it, to mirror image it. So isn't that cool? So on either side of the button placket there, and the buttons in the middle. So that's an idea for tapering. Or again, you just keep experimenting. Here I started at the buttonhole and went down. So again, we've got more options here. And same thing with this stitch. I tapered it down. Oh, I think that's a maybe 45-degree, 90-degree. And then again, flip with mirror imaging to flip on this side. So many different things we can do. So again, with your old dress shirt, don't throw anything away. Then you copy this and put it on your brand new, beautiful dress shirt that you either made yourself, or again, that you can just jazz up your wardrobe. How about just on the pocket then? Just a little bit of tapering, some beautiful thread. In this case, it was some of our Janome polyester embroidery thread. How beautiful. Now you'll notice here on the pocket, I do have some tearaway stabilizer. This would be a great time maybe to use some water-soluble stabilizer instead, and then it would just wash away once you soak it in water. On things like here, the button placket, I didn't need to worry about adding any extra stabilizer actually, because this button placket is already interfaced. You'll see a little bit of the interfacing there. There's another layer of fabric here folded over. So very often in these button plackets, we have at least 2 layers of fabric and usually 2 layers of interfacing. So it's nice and stiff. Same with the collar. Again, look at the backside of the collar. Very beautiful. Again, I didn't need any additional stabilizer because the collar here is interface. The upper collar and the under collar would be interface. Now, just as a little tip, as I'm doing this collar here, we want to make sure we remove these little collar stands here to get the point of our collar. Remove those before you do your stitching. But it's really, really fun to do. Or how about, as I did, oh yes, and again, so many different ideas. You just have so much fun to play. So here on our, commercially made dress shirt, fine and good. But doesn't this look way better? Doesn't this look like you spent way more money on this shirt by having this little bit of tapering detail around that tiny little button here on your cuff? So isn't that cute? And again, I didn't need any additional stabilizer here because again, I've got that cuff, again, 2 layers of fabric plus the interfacing in between. It worked out really good. If you do need extra, again, maybe your water-soluble stabilizer either on top or on the bottom here, and then that way it'll just wash away, or maybe just a little bit of the iron-on interfacing that would stay in permanently, the tearaway doesn't look so great there. Maybe if I used a black, it wouldn't be so bad either. But again, really, really fun. So again, you do all your little test samples here on your old dress shirt, and then you put it on your new dress shirt. So let's get into, for this applique, back to this applique here, on how we can prevent that buildup of the satin stitch. So tapering, we go into, depending on what your machine is, but it will have your beautiful LCD screen, and it's the same icon here. Again, I'm on the CM17, but it would be the same icon of this little arrow. Sorry, I'll kill this light for the reflection. There we go. So it's this little arrow is the tapering function. So tapering, on our Continental machines, at least, we can go down here to the bottom, this little cheat sheet, and boom, there's all our tapering stitches. Look at how many tapering stitches we have. So we can go scroll through and select whichever one we want. There's my little satin stitch here. Boom, so there it is. So now then when we go into the tapering icon here at the bottom, again, those little satin stitch with the little triangles here, that's tapering. So we can go in and refine. Here's all of our angles. So in this case, when I did my little sample, I turned my angles off. So I just had my little satin stitch in between. But now when I go back to resume my satin stitch, I'll have the top part of it off, since I'm going to resume where I left off. But as I get into my corner, this is where, I can do, again, a 60 degree. I can do a 45 degree, so it angles off to the left. I could do 45 to the right. In this case, I want to angle 45 to the left. We can save this if we would like and stitch it out later. I'll get into here right now. In the middle is with the actual stitch. Again, this is our little zigzag. So this infinity symbol means we can stitch this on and on and on and on indefinitely. Or when we want to try to say exactly how big our stitches are, like how long our stitches are. For example, when we want to start getting into creating this frame, for example, or creating this angle, how long is this repetition of stitches going to be? Then this is the middle here. It could either be infinity until we decide to end it, or I could say, I want to do 1 repetition of this stitch, or 2, or 3, or use our little calculator. I want 50 of them, whatever we want to do. In this case, I'm just going to keep it on infinity. So then there, I press OK. Boom. So here, down on our LCD screen here, I also have these little icons are off and on. This is for the lock stitch at the beginning and lock stitch at the end. We can turn it off if we choose. I love having them on, definitely. So all this information is here on your LCD screen. Of course, it's in your instruction manual. And for machines, like the CM17 and the Continental M7, Continental M8, MemoryCraft 9480, for example, we have our various apps, like our AccuAssist and the AccuAssist, or AccuSpark and AccuSpark 2. So you can get lots more information about tapering in your instruction manual and your various apps for your machine. Also check our Janome Life blog and, of course, our respective YouTube channel for more about tapering. So here, as I just get back into doing this satin stitch, now again, I had my tapering was turned off as I got started, because in this case, I just stopped midway through. But now as I'm getting up to the corner, I'm going to press my lock stitch, and that's what's going to stop me stitching. And I want to get right into the corner. Boom. And now I pivot. Look at that needle right on the edge. Now, before I get stitching again, remember I had turned off, let's go back into our little tapering. I had turned off the tapering to start with because I had started mid zigzag. Well, now I'm going to turn my corner. So now I should probably raise my needle before I start moving my selections here. So because I had tapered, it finished with a taper off to the bottom left. So now I could start a taper where it is starting at the, starting at the top left. And then I can do my zigzag in between, and then I'm going to finish again at the bottom left, going over to my next corner. Oh, make sure we hit OK. It's really fun. So as always, you know, I try to be as thorough as I can when I demonstrate, but there is nothing beats the power of just doing. You just have to do it. But there we go. And again, you won't have a camera and you won't have the pressure of doing this fast for live. So then, oh yes, let me get my stiletto. And again, we do our stitching. And in this case, I'll go right into my corner a little bit more. And then hit that lock stitch and end our stitching. Boom. Now, when you hit the lock stitch, when you have the infinity sign selected, do you see it asked me, do you want the same size or a different size? This is a lot like the memorize piecing that we have built into a number of machines as well. So in this case, it shows me there's my top little tapering, there's my top tapering angle, there's my stitch in the middle, and here's my end tapering. So I had 72 repetitions of that little zigzag stitch. So this is when we want to create these, again, these little boxes for our picture frames, for our quilt labels, or again, we want to create this angle for a napkin, for a tablecloth. We can stitch out however long we want it to be, and then say, okay, do I want that same size again? Yes. So now, when I go to turn this corner here, and to stitch out, in this case, it's my little sample I've already stitched. But again, if I then to go and stitch this sample, it's going to stitch exactly the same length, and it's going to stop all on its own. It's going to stop all on its own. So it's really cool. That's why, oops, I meant to hit my scissor button. There we go. So again, it's really cool. Now, in this case, this wasn't the correct sample, so that's why it didn't finish exactly. But isn't that cool? So you just play, you just experiment. So here, when I did my little dress shirt, I did another dress shirt. Again, I've got a lot of these older dress shirts here that I'm experimenting in between my button placket here. So we can easily add some beautiful decorative stitching to something that's already purchased. And again, because we've got this button placket with the extra fabric and the extra stabilizer in it, with the extra interfacing, we don't need to worry about adding extra stabilizer. Now, in this case, I'm using my open toe satin stitch foot, the F2 foot. This is the regular F foot. That is the closed toe version. It's got a little plastic bar across, but you see the little groove in the underside. This is when we want to use the satin stitch feet to, again, allow for these decorative stitches to pass through. So on my screen, again, if I want to recreate that stitch that I used, again, let's go into, oh, I think it was this one that I used. Yes. Now we go into, again, our little tapering function here. So what do I want my tapering to start off as? What angle? In this case, I'm not going to start it off. I'm going to start this stitching right at the end of the buttonhole. So I'm turning it off. Here is, again, this stitch in the middle, this satin stitch. How many stitches did I want? Well, this is where, again, you take your little sample. And in this case, I stitched out 2, 1, 2 of my stitch. There's my stitch. I stitched out 2, 1, 2. And then with my tapering at the bottom, you know, where I had to say how big, again, how big was this? In this case, it's 2 inches. So then I know, well, it's actually just about 2 and an eighth. And then, so I know then when I go to pivot, and then this is also going to finish, you know, at 2 and an eighth. So you do your little test sample first. How long is it? And then you can, then you know for sure that I could type in, okay, I want 2 repetitions because it's that 2 inches that I want. If you think, oh, I could go a little more, maybe 3 would be good. Then you do your little test sample of 3 repetitions, just like I did here. There's 1 repetition of this stitch. There's 2 repetitions. There's 3. And then, oh, maybe I have a bigger space I can fill. Well, what does 7 look like? So this is how you can determine with these little samples, how long, how many repetitions do you need? Or again, you just keep it on infinity and go, 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 go until you think you're good. And then you hit your lock stitch. Then you hit your lock stitch button and that'll finish that little tapering. And then it'll tell you, do you want to repeat that size or do something different? Just like our, again, memorized piecing built into a number of machines. So in this case, in my sample, I did 2. I just 1, 2, boom, or we use our little calculator. And again, what was our finished tapering? In this case, it was 60 degree. This little icon here is the mirror imaging button. Now, in this case, it's the same stitch, so it won't really show. But if we want to flip our stitch, as I did for these, stitches, this is when I can use that mirror image, which is here. So I can click it here and then click OK. And you see that little mirror image icon has now appeared. We also have the mirror image icon here as well. So in this case, I want to deactivate it. It's the same stitch. It won't matter. So we could activate mirror image here, or we can activate or deactivate mirror image here. So really, really fun to do. And again, you just play and you just experiment. So this is where you get lost in your sewing room. It's perfect when it's, again, a miserable day outside. You're worried about the weather, and it's like, oh, I'll just distract myself, stay inside and sew. So there we go. And then again, I don't need to worry about additional stabilizer. But again, in this case, maybe if you need it, you might want to put, again, that water-soluble stabilizer maybe on the bottom. On the top, if you're doing this in terry cloth or like a velvet, anything with a texture, you would definitely want to use that water-soluble stabilizer on top. So, boom, there it is. There are 2 repetitions and my little tapering at the bottom. Or again, I think, oh, I could really do 3, whatever you choose to do. And now here with the collar, again, I was experimenting, doing, you know, my angle, a 60-degree angle in the corner. So you just use your, again, practice dress shirt to see what it looks like. And then you could take this from your practice and put it on your good shirt. In this case, there's 4 repetitions of my, again, I started with no tapering. I did 4 repetitions of my stitch and then a little satin stitch at the end. So super, super fun to do. That in a whirlwind is your tapering function that, again, is built into a number of Janome sewing machines. So you just get out your instruction manual, and, or again, if you've got the CM17, we've got our AccuAssist app. If you have a Continental M7, you've got the AccuSpark. If you've got the Continental M8 or the 9480, for example, you've got AccuSpark 2. So you've got all that information about tapering right at your fingertips. So thank you everyone so much for joining me today. Oh yes, thank you so much. That was great. Yeah, again, a button placket. So simple to do. Just a little extra designer touch. And again, you just take a plain shirt, you buy at the discount store, and you just add that little bit, use some metallic threads, use some of your decorative threads, some multicolor threads, maybe your embroidery threads is what I typically use for that nice sheen. And that really adds a good designer touch. And that way you don't have to start, it doesn't have to be a shirt from the scratch. You just take what you already have in your wardrobe and just make it that little extra special using your machine. As our fabulous educator Celine says, she wears her machine. Well, in this case, yes, I could proudly wear my machine with my tapering function. So thank you everyone so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you all next week. Bye.